The president's dead to begin with. That's how we start. Season 3 of Netflix's The Diplomat picks up right where Season 2 left off. And now we get to watch the anxiously stressful exchanges between Keri Russell, Rufus Sewell, Allison Janney, Bradley Whitford, and Rory Kinnear. Ambassador Kate Wyler lives the particular nightmare that is getting what she wants. She just accused Vice President Grace Penn of hatching a terrorist plot and admitted she's after the VP's job. But now the president is dead, and none of this slows Hal's campaign to land Kate the vice presidency. So unlike Season 2, we return to a full 8 episodes like there were in Season 1. And for fans of this show, it is going to be extremely tough not to carve out the 8-ish hours and binge the entire thing at once. Keri Russell as Kate Wyler is aggressively wonderful. Kate is wildly smart, unjaded enough to pursue things that seem insurmountable, but also pushy enough that she can become her own worst enemy. And for as much as I have loved her feisty personality, there came a point this season, about halfway through, where she began to grate on my nerves a bit. And not because she was flexing all of this influence or power, it was more because she just couldn't get out of her own way. Constantly pushing and pushing so that she began to lose her influence, sometimes even her charm, morphing her into something more akin to the other politicians that she's encountered, including her husband. Now, I still root for the character, and I am blown away by the persistent anxiety that Russell can create for Kate. I just wanted to see her take a step back at a couple of key moments so that she wouldn't lose the clout that she'd worked so hard to earn. Rufus Sewell continues to shine as the slimy, conniving, but incredibly crafty and intelligent Hal Wyler. And the character is one of those that I am simultaneously impressed at what he can accomplish, while also wanting to throttle him around the neck for his deviousness. The dynamic between Russell and Sewell is dysfunctionally awesome. I'm not quite sure how we're supposed to feel about the relationship because it's been complicated from the moment we met him. And for this season, though, it gets exponentially more so. When Allison Janney was introduced last season, she's an instant firecracker. And she's kind of like Sam Rockwell. She just makes everything better. She's a stubborn VP, now president. And despite getting to wield that power, there are moments when we see behind the curtain, and that's when Janney endears. The softness and relatability that she conveys, it doesn't detract from her position of power. But instead, it makes Grace Penn an even more engaging persona because we get to see the many facets that make up her identity. The tension that erupts from Grace and then those around her during times of stress, it's exhilarating and anxiety-producing. When she, Hal, Kate, and then the Chief of Staff, Billy, are in the same room, I mean, it is an absolute powder keg that is covered in nitroglycerin, and they are all smoking cigars. I was eating up the strain and the pressure because it kept the urgency of the moment consistently pulsing. And then, even though we have limited screen time with him, Bradley Whitford is another bright spot within the cast. He is sarcastic and dryly funny, delivering his dialogue in this straightforward but pointed manner that consistently made me chuckle. And the way he performs in a scene, it's effortless. Like he's kind of just wandered onto the set uninvited and the cast likes him so much that they just let him ad-lib his way through all the scenes. And don't take that to mean that he's inconsequential or even some odd addition. He's very much an integral part to portions of the storytelling. It's just the way that he moves through the show. He interacts as though he really lives in this world that just happens to be visited by some other actors. But for as much as I was loving the season, there was a storytelling decision halfway through that wasn't nearly as fluid or pleasing as it could have been. There's a semi-large time jump, and it's not the issue. The story needed to get us to a future point, and that makes sense. But what feels very abrupt and messy is the fact that we're introduced to a brand new character who's built history with other characters in this unseen time span. I mean, the dialogue, it doesn't do its best to just provide some context for what's transpired, but it comes across as clunky exposition rather than natural conversation. And to make matters even more confusing is that the previous episode ends with an interaction that feels as though it's got legs. But they're instantly cut off at the knees and left to hobble around on stumps during the transition time period, only then to fall overboard and never be seen again. It took kind of a weird pirate turn, didn't it? Well, ultimately, this jump, it didn't ruin the series, but it did take the majority of the episode for me to gain some equilibrium and then enjoy the new addition to the cast. And what did allow for a faster recovery was the intense dynamic that's built between Rory Kinnear's Prime Minister Trowbridge, Grace, and then the hold that he maintains over Kate. This show, it does not like to let things calm down in the slightest. It's always running us right on that ragged edge, and that's what keeps it as a bingeable treat. An incredibly stressful one, but, still. The storylines for this season sometimes mirror the political nervousness that currently surrounds the world. Not that this is making a statement or even commentary about any particular government entity or even administration. It's just channeling the current upheaval and uneasiness that exists in the world and then focuses it down into a central narrative. What we get is nail-biting situations that are enhanced by smart and witty dialogue. It also helps that so much of this feels as though it could have been written by Aaron Sorkin. Rapid-fire conversations that can almost create whiplash at the speed at which they transition. But they also manage to maintain cohesiveness, intelligence, and snarky humor. And the formula the storytelling uses to unfold each of its plot complications, those are beginning to feel a little routine. Not that the circumstances or the outcomes are highly predictable, but how we watch them play out, it's kind of a rinse and repeat situation. There's some sort of issue or conflict. Kate steps in with an idea or plan. She's then sideswiped by a scheme Hal has cooked up in the background, which then leads to an argument, maybe more, followed by a rational brainstorming into an actionable plan which nobody's entirely satisfied with, but it ends up working. And some of this predictability, it creates a rhythm of closeness with our characters. They're not unpredictable and erratic personalities. Instead, they act rationally for how they've been developed and then maintain a consistency with that trajectory, even if it is backcrap crazy. I don't think I'd want the characteristics to change, but perhaps having the conflicts play out between different characters would then allow for some variance that would keep it from just feeling so formulaic. This was a doozy of a season. From heart-pounding conversations to anxious negotiations, the storytelling continues to set an urgent cadence that then maintains the stress all the way through. The cast, they continue to be brilliant, each creating characters that are nuanced enough to never be static or singular within their personality. The pacing, it's taut and efficient, and despite the awkward time jump mid-season, the show manages to pick right up and then charge forward without rushing the story too much. And even though there is some predictability in formulaic character interactions, the performances continue to be captivating, aggravating, and then endearing all at once. I'm hoping the wait between now and season 4 is short because we are once again left on a precipice that could lean towards disaster or triumph. Either way, though, it's going to be thrilling. There's sex, brief nudity, ton of profanity, not really any violence. I give season 3 of The Diplomat 4 out of 5 couches. Okay, so I'm assuming that you're at least a mild fan of the show since you are watching a review of season 3. So tell me, who are your top 2 favorite characters in the show? For me this season, it was Bradley Whitford's first husband, Todd Penn, and then Rory Kinnear's PM. But for entirely different reasons on those two. But let me know your favorites in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.